Thank you for tuning in to the Unjiggered podcast. If you enjoy listening, please consider subscribing and giving us a rating on your podcast service of choice. Also, don't forget to like and tag us on Instagram at unjiggered_media. Thank you to everybody for listening, and now on with the show. You're listening to Unjiggered, a bartender podcast where we interview highly successful bartenders about their careers, lives, and the passion of bartending. This week we chat with Le Cocktail Connoisseur. We talk about his definition of influencers, why he started the top 500 bar list, and he gives advice on how to manage your social media accounts. With this podcast, we want to peel back the mask and discover just how the greats really became the greats. So sit back and enjoy.
Hi, I'm Anthony. I run with my partner Melave, who unfortunately can't be with us today, the blog The Cocktail Connoisseur, and our new project Top 500 Bars. And I'm very happy to be invited by our friend from Unjiggered podcast.
So, how's Singapore treating you so far?
So far, so good. I would say as usual, because it's not our first time here in Singapore. It just maybe it's going to be more challenging on the long run because we are here only for a few days. So we try to say hi to different friends who runs bar and discover new bars. So I'm not quite sure my liver would say the same. But otherwise, yeah, so far so good. A very good time with very nice people as usual here.
Did you manage to spend some quality time in the bars that you wanted to see?
Most of them have. There is too many bars, so that's the issue. But yeah, mainly I think we have done what we wanted to do. So yeah, that was a good few days so far.
When's the last time you were in Singapore?
Last year.
And have you noticed any changes over the past 12 months?
Yeah, I think first there is more new bars, and what we really like with Singapore, and that's what we always say with Mel for the last 3-4 years, is for us Singapore is the city regarding cocktail for the industry. They are more innovative than even London, because I know everyone thinks London is the place to be. We really think Singapore is different because most of the time in Europe, so we are based in Paris, when one type of bar works, you have several bars going to be exactly the same. Mm-hmm. Here, you're in Singapore, there is one type of bar, but people just decide, say, oh, amazing, I'm going to open my own bar, but with my own personality. Every bar is really different, innovative, working hard in their own way, and that's what we love with Singapore.
You get to travel a fair bit. You mentioned the two big hubs, London and Paris. Do you have any other cocktail hub around the world that you really like?
So this year, for the first time, we went to Taipei, and we were amazed as well because there was a lot of bar, different, again, very innovative. We really like Hong Kong. We couldn't be there this year. We were in Hong Kong last year, and the scene is quite amazing. And I think for that, everyone is inspired, in fact, in Asia by Singapore. And you can see we were in Bangkok, booming scene as well. KL, we were in Ho Chi Minh, Vietnam. Everyone is looking at Singapore saying, okay, that's the direction we want to go. And that creates the trend. We need to go to South America, to be honest, because we know people there and we have only seen them during a guest shift, and we really want to go in their bar to discover better because it seems it's amazing too. So we have a kind of a black hole in our map around the world. That's South America, and we need to solve that quickly.
In terms of talking about Singapore, what do you think is that makes Singapore a progressive market? Is it like a variety of factors, or is it perhaps the fact that opening a bar here is still a possibility for someone with a limited budget?
Well, to be honest, I think Singapore is quite expensive, so I'm not sure it's a limited budget, but I have the feeling that first, Singapore is supportive when you're talking about the government. The idea is, well, it's about business. That's a business. And for Singapore, it's a destination. If you see how many people come to Singapore and how long they stay, most of the time people stay around 1.5 days, 2 days. It's just short trip. So the more you have bars, so it becomes a destination. Restaurants, shows, everything, people are going to stay longer. And I think that's why the Singapore government support that kind of initiative. For instance, we're discussing with people in Kuala Lumpur. It's a Muslim country, for sure. I wouldn't say that the government is really supportive if you want to open a bar. So that's part of the business. Singapore needs to be a destination, and cocktail is part of this trip.
Yeah, what I find interesting is that speaking with people like VJ and you know the people from Live Twice and the Jigger and Pony group, it seems like opening a bar here for sure is not cheap, but compared to other cities like London, for instance, it seems to be more of a possibility. I mean, I had friends who like take years to find a property and they struggle to do so, right?
Yeah, we were chatting about that with Alex Cratena and Monica Berg, for instance. When Alex left the Artesian and they already had the idea of opening their own place, and when you see the roadmap they have in mind at this time with Simone, they were supposed to open the year after that. But yeah, after discussion, they struggled to find the right place, to have the license as well, and it took longer than they have planned originally. So yeah, in that way, and that's the same for Paris because you have new laws regarding alcohol control and so on. For sure, that's more complicated.
Sure. We talked about your recent trip. Now let's talk about the man himself. You and your partner run this blog, but how did you start? How did you get into the beverage industry?
In fact, so that's not our job. Mel is a creative director in advertising, and I work in digital. So we met in a cocktail bar. So that was, so we chat about cocktail. And we can see that when we travel for work, most of the time during the day we have our client. At the end of the day, we work for her at this time, London, for me, Paris. Then you alone in your hotel room say, I would like to socialize, see stuff. So you can walk around in the city, but at the end, both of us, without knowing that, we went to a bar, cocktail bars, and we have amazing times thanks from the guy from the industry. So when we were chatting together, say, we should find a way to thank them. And at this time, I was a blogger about digital transformation. Say, okay, let's set up a blog. We're going to highlight those amazing people. And then we're thinking, okay, bars already done, cocktail already done. And at the end, if we like a place, we go because of the bartender. So let's do something about bartender. And that's how we start to interview bartenders from all around the world when we travel for work or when, like today, we are on holiday. It's part of what we do. And after that, we thought, okay, I work in digital. Instagram is important. So we need to open an Instagram account and people know us because we only take photos from the top of the cocktail. That was an idea of Mel. And then that's going on like that. That was the idea, just to say, thank you guys. Thanks to you. We have amazing time. That was the purpose of that.
And how did the blog go? And how did you go about growing it in size?
Well, regarding to the beginning, it's going better and better. We have more and more views. What is funny, I think it's the blog is the most important part for us because that's where we sit with bartenders, take an hour asking questions, like just we do have a conversation. And so that's how we know each other because they ask us questions as well. That's important for us, but it's a writing part. And I can see now that on social media, people likes more videos, photos, that kind of stuff. So let's be honest, the blog is, I know the less important part of our digital ecosystem, even if for us it's still important. So we're thinking, okay, maybe should we change and maybe not podcast because most of the time we travel and people doesn't speak English. So that would be an issue regarding a podcast in English. So maybe a kind of video with, which going to summarize the whole question we could ask usually. We keep that in mind. So blog is okay. And to be honest, it's way better on Instagram. Most of the people knows us through Instagram. Didn't know even we have a blog or for the YouTube channel or, we have thousands of views every month.
So social media is a growing need for bars nowadays. Would you give any recommendation to bars who perhaps struggling with social media, generally speaking?
I think that, you can't. I know a lot of people who, when they decide where they want to go, could be on holiday, but could be a bar or a restaurant, they look on social media. So if you not strengthen your game on social media, I think you're missing something. So I would say first, just don't take crap photos or whatever. Take a little bit of time. Think about what you want to say. For instance, like it could be you have a kind of a calendar, like today is going to be dedicated to a team, so it's going to be portrait for a team. This day is going to be about our cocktail. This day, because we are a community, is going to be about our neighbors in the same area who owns their own bar as well. So think about what you do regarding your editorial line. Think about the type of photo you want, because when you look, how going to look your photos. So if you can take each time the same kind of photos, it's going to create a landscape that will look better. So it's going to be a mix about the way it looks and your editorial line. After that, it's about having followers. most of the people, they say, yeah, can I take a photo of you or bartender? Just say, okay, guys, but can you follow us at least? And that would be nice. Or I know bars, they do that. You get access to the Wi-Fi. To access to the Wi-Fi, you have to follow the Instagram account. That's a mini program. So it makes the stuff grow. And I think it's fair. You give a service, you give good time to the people, you give access to Wi-Fi. Well, it's payback. So it makes sense.
In terms of follower base, do you have any other recommendations for people in order to try to build their follower base?
I think there is two stuff. You can work in a bar, but at the end you're an individual. So you don't have to let the bar social media take over you. I remember recently we were in London at Artesian, and that was Anna Sebastian who was saying, yeah, I'm prepping a masterclass for my team, because right now they are in Artesian. That's a super well-known bar. So of course they are everywhere on social media, but when they're going to move, maybe they're going to become kind of less well-known. So she organized a masterclass saying, you need to develop your own personal branding. And I think for that, she's right. So you have the bar for sure, and that could be a support. But as a bartender, you need to develop your own presence, because even maybe you won't stay in the same bar your whole life. And most of the time that's the case. So being well-known, showing you have followers, people knows you, that's going to help you for the next move on your career. So the bar for sure, but people first.
We mentioned about the fact that you have no industry background in terms of bartending. What is it?
Just a client.
Exactly, which is a good thing. So most of the people who we have on this podcast are bartenders, and they give us a point of view which is very bartender focused. So that's why we think that your specific point of view is very valuable. What is it that matters to you in a bar, and what is it that makes you fall in love with a bar?
Okay. When we start to spend more time in bars, like more than 10 years ago now, I would say, we were kind of geeky, and we were more focusing on what's inside the drink. Should be an amazing drink, something innovative, and so on, blah, blah, blah. Wow, we still love good drinks for sure, and it would be difficult for us to go in a place where we don't like the drinks. But at the end, if you have an amazing drink, but the people who serve you, they have a long face, they're not kind or whatever, I prefer to have a less good drink, but have a better contact and interaction with the person in front of me, the bartender. And that's why we create this blog. So it's going to be more about the full context, the experience. I think there is more and more bars, as we said before. And I think that you have your bar with your own personality, something different. So when you arrive, or you forget that your daily, what you do on a regular basis, and you just to another place, another time. And that's a real cut. That's nice. Or, oh yeah, I like this personality of the bar, the design. I feel good. I have good interaction. Maybe not the best drink, but if they're still the right level, that's what I'm looking for. And I think that's true, because when we discuss with more and more people, you can see that, okay, drink is important, but even if it's an amazing one, after 3 days, maybe I will forget about it. If I have a very good time in this place, I will remember that, and I will send my friend. And I think it's the case for more and more people. For that, I can see there is a change those last 4 or 5 years. Less geeky, more accessible to everyone to have good time.
You mentioned something that I think it's extremely valuable, which is the sense of escapism, meaning that you get into a bar to sort of detached from reality. What do you think are the elements that help a bar achieve this?
Well, I think that's going to be mainly first the design, because that's when you get in, that's the first stuff you can see. All as a sense, smell regarding memories, regarding help you to project anywhere, that's the strongest one. So I know, for instance, in London, when you go to Opium, when you arrive, you have a Buddha for sure, but they put incense. So then automatically, you don't think you're in London. You feel incense, you think, I know the smell. Somewhere, that should be somewhere in Asia. So smell is important, design, and after that, that's how the team work with you, ask what you want, interact, just make you forget where you are and just focus on the present time.
It's true. Sometimes it's unbelievable how smell can be underrated, right? It's like in Scout they burn this wood, and that specific scent really links with you. It's true, eh?
But that was the main idea of Joe Scofield when he first menu in Tipping Club. That was about like, yeah, you can smell. That's gonna bring you memories, and that's what you're gonna get in your cocktail. And because I'm partly Vietnamese. For Vietnamese, the smell is very important. We always smell what we eat. I always smell my cocktail before I'm going to drink it.
Fantastic. You mentioned that you and your partner come from different backgrounds. How did these backgrounds help you shape your blog?
Well, as I tell you, for instance, for Instagram, the idea of taking only photos from the top, so having a very specific presence, that's her idea. She's a creative director, so that's how she thinks the stuff. And same for taking photos, because she's always on shooting with models and so on. She's really precise, so even sometimes she argue with me and say, no, I don't like the photo you have taken, that there is a 0.5 millimeter on the left. We need to scratch this photo and put it back. So for the precision and the aesthetic, I would say that's her part. On my side, I'm a consultant. I work with companies for so a presence on social media. So knowing how to run a blog, how to make it well, famous is not the right term, but I know at least people know it exists. How you're gonna use social media as a sandbox, so they're gonna have relay, and you don't have the feeling that you're struggling alone behind your keyboard and no one reads or watch what you do. So for that's my job on daily basis. So I know how to do that, and yeah, I don't like the term, but people consider us as influencers. I wouldn't say we're influencers, but for sure people knows us, and because we are on social media, and at the same time we are grounded with the industry.
But I think there is a lot of misconception about what the word influencer means, and somehow it has picked up a negative connotation, which I'm not really sure why.
Because normally, if you look at the original definition of influencers, when you influence someone, this person doesn't really know you have an influence on him or her. So in that way, it's kind of sneaky. People has the feeling that's negative. But for instance, when I work with my agency, influencers is the regular term to say people who are powerful in their market, their industry, with a strong social media presence, and that's the way it's called. But I don't know, because I've always the feeling that for me, influencers drive back to social media. And I know people, they are super influential on social media, but they're not grounded to the market. They're just taking nice photos. They were at the right time. They're smart, but they're not rated to market. I prefer to think that influencers are people like, for instance, bartender. I don't know, Nico De Soto. When he bring pandan, he influenced a lot of people around the world with the pandan inside a drink. When you see the guys from the Clumsy, when they travel, at a moment there was a trend regarding Mastilla. That's because they travel and bring this Greek liquor around the world, that after that you can find a lot of Mastilla everywhere in the world. For me, that's really influence, because it has a really impact at what you do on a regular basis. Taking nice photos, doing good interviews, I'm super happy, and we are very happy and proud to do that. But I don't think it's the same impact if you're talking about influence. That's why I'm not very comfortable with the word influence.
Yeah, no, and I see that. I think as a category, influencer is a quite broad one, and there are a lot of different aspects to it, right?
True.
So we talked about your usual blog, but recently you have started something called 500 Best. What was the reasoning behind it, and how did you go about creating it?
Okay, so as I told you, the idea behind the Cocktail Connoisseur was to highlight people. But each time when we were discussing with bartenders, they were saying, yeah, we have the feeling that most of the time when it's about awards or ranking, it's always the same bars when you have thousands, hundreds of bars around the world. And regarding the way people vote, it could be sometimes political or have influence on it. So it's kind of a black box, and we're not super comfortable with that all the time. So we thought about that and say, okay, let's try to answer to those two questions. This year I didn't work, so I have a little bit of time. And I say, okay, for me, the answer, maybe because that's my background, is digital. You can see a lot of industry. They are now on digital transformation regarding data and so on. So I say, okay, let's try to do something to answer. The first question would be, how are we going to show more bars than with our blog? Even if you travel the world, there is a lot of bar we don't know. So we get data about cocktail bar from all around the world, thousands and thousands of data, and then we arrive to a database with thousands of bars. So, okay, we have a database, but honestly, just publishing a list of bars doesn't really make sense. So let's try marketing it a little bit. Okay, so let's see, there is a Fortune 500. Let's do top 500 bars. The most influential bar in the world. Doesn't mean they're the best, because best is very subjective. Mm-hmm. The most influential means like people talk about them in the industry, the customers, everyone. So first we'd say, okay, we're going to keep 500 bars. How are we going to rank them? That was the second question asked by the bartender. Say, okay, let's do something neutral. It means that all the data, all the people are going to be treated the same. So we create an algorithm who's going to rank all those thousands of data to create this top 500 bars ranking. So that's why it's about influence, all the data. And after that, just to give you a little bit of idea of how it works. For instance, if you have a blogger who usually blogs about, shoes, dim sum, whatever, and this person falls in love with one of the bar near a place, she's going to write an article on the blog. That's going to be the only one about a cocktail bar. In the other hand, so as a cocktail connoisseur, we publish only about cocktails, bartenders, bar. So then the algorithm will think, okay, maybe this person who usually blogs about shoes, this person is not really a great expert, so we take that into account. But the point of view of the cocktail connoisseur should be stronger because they know a lot about that. So I won't weight those data the same way. So there is the question of expertise. That's one stuff. The second stuff is the perimeter. If I am I'm here in Singapore and I am the Mandarin Oriental bar and I have an article on the local gazette, the algorithm will think, okay, that's a local gazette. They live there. Not easy, but makes sense. If you have an article in an international review where everyone is struggling to get in to have an article, then the algorithm will think, okay, between something local and something international, that's not the same weight as well. And so that's the another component. And one of the last one is for us what we call the wisdom of crowd. It's something regular in digital, meaning that, as the Americans say, we are smarter than me. If you have hundreds of people saying something, that should be smart compared to only one people, even if it's the biggest expert. So when we have, so that's why we work in 20 different languages. And that's why we have decided to think, okay, every opinion count. We use the ranking, all the ranking we can find, local, regional, international. We use the press, we use the influencers, but we never have the point of view of industry, meaning customers. So we try to work with all the platforms like Google, Foursquare, Yelp, and so on, and say, okay, let's focus on that, how people use them. So we discuss around us and say, okay, how do you use that, guys? Well, we only look at the first page. No one turns the page on internet. So say the bar you're gonna mention, it should be on the first page. After that, if it's on Foursquare, it needs to be more than 8.5. It's Google more than 4, and so on. So okay, we take that into account as well. But the most important for us is if I go to google.com and in English I put cocktail bars Hong Kong, I will have some result. But it's going to be a result from people like me who travel. If I use Google Hong Kong in Chinese, I will have different results, and those results will be the point of view of the locals, so people who go in bar on a regular basis to this city. So when we have the possibility to have a local source in a local language, and even if there is an existing one, international English, we keep the local one because every opinion counts, but the local one, that's the people who really go on a regular basis in those bars. So that's the one which is important for us. And because that's hundreds of people, that's where you have the wisdom of crowd, and we take that into account too. Plus small other stuff.
So how does this specific thing work? Because this algorithm, does it take into consideration dimensions? You also talked about in depth right now about the quality of dimensions themselves. But for instance, should you have an international publication like, say, Difford's Guide, where they actively try a lot of bars and they give a rank to that bar, would your algorithm keep into consideration also the quality of the review or the mention?
We are, to be honest, for the moment, we're going to upgrade the algorithm. We take that into account when it's about a ranking. So if you were first of the ranking or you were 98, for sure, you won't have. It's not about only being inside the ranking. For most of the time, for the journal, so far we just keep the idea that you are on the newspaper. We're gonna change that, and that's why I need to upgrade the algorithm, because we have seen that there is an article about Mandarin Oriental. Someone on the bar is interviewed, so the article is focused on Mandarin Oriental, but I don't know, the journalist is going to ask, guys, what kind of bar do you like? Where do you go when you're off or whatever? You're going to mention 2 or 3 of the bars here in Singapore. And that's why we want to change that. For the algorithm, the mentions are the same strength in a way than Mandarin Oriental, which is not fair because originally the article was about Mandarin Oriental. So we're going to have to change that between what is a comment or just a mention or what is focused really on one bar. So we still have stuff to upgrade, but like for digital, like, it's always run in progress. And we're gonna change, but yeah, we know we are trying to find a way as well to be able to measure in some reviews when they rank the stuff. It's sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work. So when it's not 100% sure, we just keep that aside and see. For instance, we try to use Instagram in our algorithm. It's complicated to plug to Instagram. It's complicated to find, okay, what's the weight of Instagram compare to an article for a reason. So we still try to find the right balance, though, because we haven't found something we are happy with. We only use Instagram when we have 3 bars. They're at the same level. And then, so, okay, we open the Instagram account. We check with other application what's the interaction on their Instagram page. Not only the number of followers, because there is a lot of people who are buying their followers, so we don't want that. So we use program who's gonna check what's the interaction, who are the fake account who follow them, so maybe have been bought. So that's the program who does that, not us. And then they give us a ranking for those 3 accounts, and that's how we're gonna say, okay, this one is bar number 121, 122, 123. But we're gonna add as well Instagram when we're gonna find the right way to measure. But yeah, when we're happy with this, it's inside. Where we're not, we still work on that, and we're gonna include that later.
Seems like you're trying to process an enormous amount of data.
Yes, a lot. Well, we have made the calculations so far. We have worked for this first year with more than 2,000 different sources, and I think we used to say, because we're 100% sure of that it's between 20 and 50,000 of data we have processed through that, and it's fair because at the end, where we are very happy when we look at the result of the top 500 bars, you have 91 different cities, 46 different countries. So really, and that was the idea. One of a bartender in New York sent us a message on Instagram saying, "Hey guys, that's great, but can you do a list per cities? Because for people traveling, that's going to be easier instead of scrolling all the ranking." I say, yeah, makes sense. Gonna give us a little bit more work because we type ourselves the stuff online on the website. So, okay, let's do the list ourselves and do that. So yes, we do this list, and when people travel, yeah, they can find a list of bar, well, not everywhere, but I think 91 cities around the world is still quite good. The idea is not to have all the cities. It's still a ranking, top 500. But yeah, if next year we have more cities or better stuff, and we continue to add a lot of bars we didn't have. And if I can just use Unjiggered to say that, guys, if you know bars anywhere you think they deserve to be in, maybe they are already in the database, they just didn't made it, or maybe they're not, just send us the name of the bar, the name of the city, so we can add them in the database, and then they're going to be scrolled to see if they can make it. Because the more bar we have, the more it's going to be representative for all the people around the world.
That's awesome. So there are a lot of awards and lists at the moment. Every year there seems to be more and more. I'm sure that one of the criticisms that you might receive is the fact that, do we need another list?
Sure.
So in terms of your list, what do you think are the strengths of it, and what do you think are the weaknesses?
Okay, I think the weaknesses is we are the new one. So we have no money. We do that on our spare time. I've been able to do that this year because I didn't work and I spent like a 2/3 time job on it. I won't be able to do that next year. We want to set up a ceremony because we know it's important for the bartenders. So we're looking for sponsors. So far, regarding money, it's just us with our little fingers and nothing else. So we're not a big group. We're just people who love the industry and try to move forward with that. So that's our strength. It's about the means, the money, and that kind of stuff. And we're still looking for sponsors for next year for this ceremony. I think our strength, whatever the number of awards, whatever the number of ranking existing, it's always on the same model. It's a pool of judge. And we are judge. We're judging for brands, for different competition or ranking. We're part of some of them, so we know how it works. But at the end, and that's why we create top 500. If it was another stuff from the industry for the industry, we're like, okay, it already exists. There is already amazing list. But again, no one can go everywhere. No one can say, yeah, I visit all those bars. There is a lot of bar in top 500 we have never been or we have never heard before. There is one bar, it's in the suburb of Boston. It's in Woburn. It's in a Chinese restaurant in a mall. And when we saw that first, say, oh my God, the algorithm is losing the plots. That's not possible. And then one of our friends who travel a lot say, oh no, I've heard about this bar. People take a Uber from Boston to go there and it's super famous around there. So, okay, amazing. So what we do is showing more bar. That's our strength. We don't use, we don't use people. It's not a pool of judges. So all the bar are judged on the same way. Could be better. Could be, maybe not better, but at least it's neutral for everyone. Everyone is treated the same. And that's why I think there is a real difference, because it's about every opinion counts, not only the industry, but customers, expert, everyone. And where is I can see a difference. There is bar I love. They don't have an amazing ranking. There is bar we really don't like. They have a good ranking. I can see that some bars normally are not at all in ranking, but when you see the reviews, when you see what people say about that, because it's more sweet drinks, long drink with garnishes, but most of the people, they love that. And yeah, you can, those bar appears. And there is a lot of bar I know, they can have amazing ranking, and some bartenders said, yeah, they have won everything. Maybe they need to win customers now because it's always empty. Those other bar, they're not well known at all. They full every day. People are queuing in front of those bar. That's not my type of bar. Most of those bar, yeah, for me, I'm more on the bitter side, short stirred drink, but it's an industry. Industry means money. Industry means customers. If those customers love those bar, maybe that's why they're in. So that's a real difference for us. We're not always looking for the last bar, the last geeky stuff. And as a person, maybe I would do that, but as a ranking, that's our strength. We use the data, it's neutral, and it's every opinion, not only experts from the industry. So that's a ranking for everyone, not just for the industry.
So you mentioned an interesting point there, which I think that there are bars that suit the industry very well and bars that suit consumers very well, and this is well known. However, I think that the more the industry progresses in terms of drinks and quality of drinks and innovation, the more this gap in between the consumer bar and the industry bar is getting larger, right? Would you agree with that, or?
I think, well, in one hand, yeah, I would agree, because it's become sometimes too technical for people, and they think like, oh my God, I don't understand what I'm reading, or when I drink something, okay, maybe there is some powder of the unicorn, what is that, or whatever. But I can see there is another trend where people think, okay, I want to do something understandable, something when people drink, they understand what they drink. So I want to give the stuff more accessible to everyone. And I remember when now 12 years ago in Paris, there was only hotel bars, and those guys from the ECC group, Experimental Cocktail Club group, say, okay, we're gonna do good cocktails accessible to everyone. That's what they did. And when they are this smart, at this time, people who was getting out only drinks mojitos. That was the drink in Paris. So they said, okay, we're gonna serve all Cuban, and when people come and ask for mojitos, we're gonna say, look guys, we're gonna do something very close for a mojito. Try it. If you don't like it, we do a mojito. If you like it, maybe it shows that there is other possibilities. And they did that, and everyone was like, oh my God, they were discovering Angostura bitters and so on, and the rum, and oh my God, it's amazing, that's the best mojito I've ever drank. Well, it's not a mojito, but, or when we have friends, they only drink gin tonic, say, do you want to try like kind of a Tom Collins, something like that? And at the end, just a bit of simple syrup, lemon, but for them, oh my God, that's the best gin tonic. And I think there is more and more bar who are trying to say, okay, we want to do good cocktails, but more accessible to the public. And you can see cocktails are more and more trendy. Everyone talks about cocktail. That was when a big newspaper last year in December saying the dish of the year is a cocktail. So it becomes more and more trendy. And I think people, if it's open and accessible, want to say, okay, I want to try, I want to discover. And that's why there is new places like we were talking about No Sleep Club, but that's the same. In London, you have a place called Fair. In Paris, there is a new place just open at 3, which has never happened before, called the Cambridge. That's where you can have people, they can come to have a coffee, they can have to nibble something, they can try some drinks, easy to sip, and then that's kind of educational. You have a learning curve, and then people say, oh, I didn't know that. You meet other people that was only there for the cocktail. We would never meet the one from the coffee. So I think it opens the sandbox for everyone, and that's going to make this stuff more accessible. And then that's kind of, I don't know who's going to win between more geeky or more accessible, but you can see right now the industry is kind of going those 2 points. Maybe people will grow up a little bit. The industry is okay, don't be too geeky, and they're gonna join
meet
together.
somewhere in the middle, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you need people to push the boundaries in order to move the boundaries forward, right?
True.
It's just that sometimes it's a bit saddening to see some of the bars that I love. They as you said, they struggle with footfall. You know, it's difficult to fill a bar that is incredibly innovative, right?
On a regular basis, like it's no more and more bar open 6 days a week, 7 days a week, having people every day. Yeah,
filling up a bar on a Tuesday is very, very complicated, right?
Indeed.
Cool. A little bit of about your blog and how you became a blogger. If any person was thinking about starting their own blog right now, like had the idea but didn't know how to do it, what kind of recommendation would you give to them?
First, you have to understand that it's not a 100-meter race. It's a marathon. It takes a lot of time if you try to do something quality. Like I can say, for instance, so I'm not talking about top 500 bars, but just for the Cocktail Connoisseur, I think every week it takes us between Mel and I 5 or 6 hours per week. So recording the interviews, typing on, taking the photos, do the stuff, going to some bars. So I'm not talking when we get out to bars to have fun, just focusing on the blog bar, 5 or 6 hours. So do that. It's not a lot, but every week. And we post, interview of bartenders every week, except like a Christmas break and in summer. So like more than, I would say, if we have 40, 45 interviews per year. So that's a lot. And that's a marathon as well, because at the beginning, no one knows you. And if you look at your stats on the blog or your Instagram account, you're going to be, oh my God, I spend so much time and no one knows about me. So it could be very hard for your morale and your mindset at the beginning. And I think that's why it's important to be grounded with the subject and with the people you're going to interact regarding the topic of your blog, because at least they know about you. You have some feedback, say, okay, maybe I don't do that for nothing. They're going to talk about you to other people. So that's going to create this ripple effect. But yeah, be patient at the beginning. It's difficult. Maybe you're going to struggle to find your own style. So no rush. Just think about, okay, what do I want to say? How do I want to do it? Think about it on a paper, and when it's done, start to do it, stick to it. Don't change your editorial line every week because you have the feeling you're going to have more people. Stick to the stuff. It's a long-term project.
Well, I'm curious to hear, because you guys, you have your own jobs, right?
Yeah.
And how do your colleagues, like yours and male colleagues, perceive what you're doing on the side? Are they aware of it, or?
Yeah, they're all aware of it. Uh-huh. And well, at the end, in our job, I would say, like Mel, when it's about, so she worked for the advertising industry. If there is a client for the agency who's gonna be a spirit, any brand, they're gonna say, Mel, do you have an idea how we can do that? And they're gonna say to the client, you know that one of her in our team, she's half of the Cocktail Connoisseur, so she knows very well the industry. That's going to be the same for me when I work on digital. We organize stuff with influencers. When we have to propose something to a client, same. They're going to say, look, I'm not just any kind of guy. I know this industry. This is what I propose. I can touch this kind of bartenders if it's interesting for you, this kind of influencers because they're part of my personal network. So it's not all our job, because bar industry, spirits is only a small percentage of our daily work. Mel was more on luxury and that kind of stuff. I've been more working with B2B brands, but when it goes that way, Yeah, and I can see all a colleague or all my colleagues and friends when they travel, like, guys, can you give us some address of restaurants, of bar, because you spend your life in bars and restaurants. So and that was the idea as well for the top 500. Why are you asking? Let's do something that everyone can see. Yeah.
So basically, you just created a list, so you don't have to type messages anymore. Copy paste. No, but it's awesome. I think our industry, like, we have gone through a period of time where things like Time Out magazine and all those things were very, very important. We received a lot of feedback from our customers. And then we have created this amazing system of self-recognition, which is the award systems, But somehow during the long period of time they've been running, because now I don't know what Taste of the Cocktails, what is it, 10 years, 10, 11 years?
Yeah, 10, 11, I think it was 10 years last year. And that's the same 1 or 2 years ago for World 50. But I think it's amazing. You have to start from one point. And
exactly,
at this time, I remember for, Tales of World 50, the first ceremony, there was 20 people when for World 50, you look at Amish, the first list of judge, they were mainly in London and so on. So, well, they was pioneer, and you have to try, do better, and that's great. Those people exist, so that's great. And it's continued thanks to you guys with Unjiggered podcast. There is more people talking about the industry, so it's a whole global ecosystem where everyone trying to give something, and that's what we did, and we continue to do with the blog, and we try to even move forward with top 500.
Fantastic. Looking forward to get more consumer focused material out there, because I think it's very, very important to get this sort of feedback directly from the industry, directly from the people who actually spend money in your bar, right?
Well, that's the balance for us. Should be consumer, but as I told you, we take all the rankings, so that's the industry, all the point of view of journalists, influencers, because we go through blogs and press it, just like, let's put at the same level, regarding what I said before, regarding perimeter expertise, the point of view of everyone to try to, nothing is perfect, but having the closer stuff and natural stuff we can produce for the industry.
You live in Paris? How's the bar scene there for you?
I think so. For a very long term, Paris, they were focusing on London, saying, we need to be like London. And they have to struggle. And at the time, they was going closer and closer from London. But I think right now, there is one main difference. Hotel bars everywhere, mainly London, New York, they rock. It's palace bar, but at the same time, people know how to speak differently to people. It's just not being super straight, and you can say nothing. In Paris, except one exception, there's just a new hotel bar we just reopened. When you're in a hotel bar, not great drinks, service super stiff, so they're out of the game completely. I hope it's gonna change, like this. That's this new hotel bar at Lutetia, but I think Paris was going better and better compared to the rest of the world or other cities in Europe. But I have the feeling that since this year or maybe last year, there were people traveling more and more in Asia. And as I told you before, for us, Asia is the future of the industry. And I can see even people from London came back and said, guys, you were right. We went to Singapore. We went to Hong Kong. Oh my God, they all work with Rotova. They do this, they do that. We need to wake up. And I think this year, London compared to Paris has already started to wake him up when you see the level of the menu. What did Rémi Savage at the Artesian with the 2 taste only and in the stuff, or it's moving on. I think Paris right now, it's still always on the same style. They don't try to do something very different. And I hope they're going to wake up a little bit like London to move forward, because otherwise they're going to step back more and more. You can see now there is a lot of, you Italian, Michele, a lot of Italian people who have traveled the world, they're now coming back in Italy, and you can see the change for Rome, for Milan, all those Italian bartenders who have learned a lot everywhere and now say, I want to do the same in my own country. Same in Barcelona. All those cities were not on the industry map at all a few years ago. So now the competition is bigger and bigger, and I think, Paris needs to be a shake up a little bit.
Yeah, I think that the trend with those bars is decentralization. So we've got these big hubs, and I can see, like, for instance, Barcelona, we have Simone Caporalo just announced that they would like to open a bar there. I mean, he's planning to open a bar in 2020. So, like, the world is becoming more and more,
but it's good.
Bar savvy. It's very good.
It's good.
It's
Like
very
wherever you are, you can find a good bar, and
More
it
drinks for
it makes sense for Simone. He has a place there, so he's always between London, Barcelona, and Seoul for business. So yeah, but he loves Barcelona. That's where he spends a lot of time. So opening something here, yeah, makes sense for him. I'm happy if he can do that. We are in Barcelona on a regular basis because it's not too far from Paris, so that's going to be amazing.
Fantastic. So I think it was a nice conversation. I think it's time to wrap it up. Quick question I ask everyone. If you could choose your very last drink, what would that be?
I think on my side, because I always do that when we go in a bar, we try from the menu. It's respectful, people work hard. But if we want to see the level of the bar, we try one classic. For male, I'm quite sure that would be a very dry martini, gin martini. That would be her last drink for sure, 100%. And for me, I think that would be a Vieux Carré because I'm really fan of whiskey. I like cognac as well. And I think Vieux Carré with the Benedictine, you have all this herbal flavor at the same time. I think that would be a Vieux Carré, yeah.
It's a mega drink. I love Vieux Carrés. Cool. Thank you very much for your time, Anthony. It was awesome to talk to you.
Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure, and thanks again.
We hope you enjoyed our interview with Le Cocktail Connoisseur. We are Unjiggered_media on Instagram, and you can follow our personal accounts at mmariotti89 for Michele, Alex J. Murphy for myself, and Adrian Bessa for Adrian. Thank you for listening.